side. And Mr. Speaker, it was indeed a very dark day 3 years ago in March when this bill was brought to the House floor 11 o'clock at night, 11:30 at night, and passed this House of Representatives after members of the Democratic Conference, the majority Democratic Conference, were lied to by the administration about an executive order to prevent the funding for abortion. That's what tipped the balance. That's what brought those last few wavering votes. And how did we get to that point? Well, throughout 2009, throughout the year, the House had indeed considered the health care question. My Committee on Energy and Commerce did have a markup on H.R. 3200. They took a lot of amendments. Some amendments I offered. Some amendments were bipartisan. All of those amendments that were accepted by the committee at some point evaporated at the light at the opening of day, whatever happened over the Speaker's office, and they were gone. The health care bill, which the Energy and Commerce Committee passed out, at 1,000 pages, grew to 2,000 pages in the Speaker's office, and all Republican amendments were stripped out. And then what happened? Well, H.R. 3200 died. It's gone. Nobody's ever seen or heard of it since. That was the House health care product. What in fact happened was down at the White House in July of 2009, there were secret meetings that took place. There were 6 special interest groups that met with the president's folks down at the White House, Nancy Ann DeParle, Rahm Emanuel's brother. These are the folks that constructed the basis of what has now become known as Obamacare. You know, the insurance companies don't hate this law. They like this law. Look what's happened to their insurance stock since the law was passed. They've doubled or tripled in value. That's because they had a seat at the table when this thing was crafted, and it was crafted according to their liking. But who really wrote the nuts and bolts of the bill was the staff on the Senate Finance Committee between Thanksgiving and Christmas. This bill, H.R. 3590, which passed the floor of this House 3 years ago, was a bill that had never had a single hearing in the House of Representatives, never had a markup in a single House committee. H.R. 3590 had passed under suspension in the House of Representatives July of 2009 as a housing bill. It went over to the Senate to await further action. The further action was an amendment offered by Harry Reid. Strike all after the enacting clause and insert, and the health care language was inserted. It came back over here, languished for 3 months, nobody read it, and then the Speaker forced it through the House of Representatives a few minutes before midnight on March 18th of 2010. That's why we're having this debate today. Sure, there have been other efforts to repeal of this. There was a full repeal in January 2011. Remember, Republicans won 84 House seats. So it was natural to have a repeal vote. After the Supreme Court had their ruling, it was important to reiterate that position. Now we're doing it again. The other repeal votes that have happened, many of them have been bipartisan. The 1099, you guys like that? You want that paperwork requirement to come back? The President signed the 1099 repeal. What about the Class Act? You all voted for that. I didn't. The Class Act was repealed on the Cliff vote. The President signed it. The repeal votes that have happened in between have been relatively minor in scope, perfecting amendments, if you will. But the fact of the matter is you can't perfect this thing. It was a dog at the beginning. It's a dog at the end. We ought to do the right thing. Let's bring up the bill. Let's pass it. Let's send it over to the Senate. I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back.